Finding a dress shirt that fits is nearly impossible. Something is always off, and I know this problem intimately. None of my shirts fit right. Be it the collar, the sleeves, you pull your arms up, it gets frumpy on one side, it never looks right, it's too tight, it's too loose, it's madness. And I see this. I'm on TV occasionally and I see my shirts don't fit right. Well, guess what? Thankfully, ordering a custom fit shirt has never been easier with Proper Cloth. At propercloth.com, you can easily create a custom shirt size in seconds by answering 10 simple questions. I did this, ladies and gentlemen. I knew the answer to 7 of the 10 questions, and they asked me some pointed questions back very quickly. They sent me 2 shirts. They were perfectly sized, and I only knew 7 of the 10 questions. I'm so impressed with Proper Cloth. At Proper Cloth, you can choose from over 20 collar styles, 10 cuff styles, and 500 fabric styles. From classic to business to casual, to completely customize your shirt and get the style that you want. The team at Proper Cloth works with the best fabric producers from around the world and only buys fabrics that meet their high quality expectations. No more cheap bargain store shirts you can wear only once or twice. Each one of their shirts goes through an extensive quality control testing, so you're getting the absolute best quality and craftsmanship. I showed it to Erica, my wife. She went, "Oh, I love that shirt." And I told her it was Proper Cloth. Proper Cloth guarantees a perfect fit, meaning that if somehow your dress shirt doesn't fit perfectly, they will remake it for free. The whole process is risk-free. This is the future of shirts, my friends. These shirts are made completely custom for you, starting at only $80. So guys, stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Start looking your best with a custom-fitted shirt. Go to propercloth.com/Spike today. Enter gift code SPIKE. That's right, I'm the gift code to save $20 on your first shirt. That's propercloth.com/Spike and enter gift code SPIKE to save $20 on your first shirt.
Now, Podcast One brings you Spike's Car Radio, a downloadable cars and coffee, hosted by writer, comedian, and automotive enthusiast, Spike Ferriston. Now, here's Spike.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spike's Car Radio. Nice to be with you. Thank you for joining us. I'm here in the studio with the real Zuckerman. In a little bit, we're going to have a little culture. Roy Sekoff is coming in. Zuckerman, he's the co-founder of the Huffington Post. He has a new book out called Lax Self-Control, True Stories I waited until my parents died to tell. And he's going to come and tell some stories for us. Well, I don't want you to look through it. I want to talk to you before we get there. He's not here yet. How are you feeling?
Terrific.
Wonderful. You seem angry.
Okay, what's new? What's new? First ask is, let me see the cover. You say no.
Well, I don't want you sitting and reading while we're talking.
Reading.
I want to talk.
I just wanted to see the cover.
Oh, here, let me show it to you right here. Here it is.
Why do you got to hold it?
This is how you would hold it if I were doing my late night show. This is how I would hold it. You have to hold it for camera one, like that, not move it. And what you do is you keep your fingers out of the way so you don't see your big, horrible fingernails.
That's exactly what I wanted. It was for you to hold it up. I wanted to touch it.
I'm going to show you, and we can ask Roy about this stuff, but I'll show you 2 chapters you're going to like. Chapter number 4, The Time Chevy Chase Grabbed My Balls, right there.
Nice.
That's on page 29. That should have been page 1 as far as I'm concerned. And then here on 173. Can you read that right there? Read that one right there.
I can't. Well, she finally handed it to me. Jewy Jewison and the Shabbat Shiksa. Okay, so this looks absolutely terrific.
It's going to be fun.
Now look at you. You're just as bad as me. You're grabbing. Your hand is there.
Because I want to talk Porsches before he gets here.
Remember, Chevy Chase recently had a road rage incident.
Yeah. He might. What would you classify his brain at?
Okay. It's ossified.
No, but using your potato scale.
No, well, it's ossified. He has fossilized potatoes up there.
And what happened? He's one of the funniest guys in the world.
Okay.
What happened?
As you well know, funny people aren't necessarily nice people, and old people who are losing control and are getting close to dying become less funny all the time.
Right. I know most comedians I know are very nice people, so
Really?
I don't agree with that statement you just made.
Really?
But why did Chevy Chase's brain go bad? Do you suspect a head injury of some kind, or has he always been like this and we just didn't know?
I think he's always been like this, but over time. As we're young, we put like garlands and we adorn ourselves with covering to to look nice, like a gift. We have nice wrapping. And as we get older, we don't give a fuck. We take off all of the covering, and the true self, the real core self, really comes out. And if you're an angry person, that's going to be the most notable characteristic as you get older. You just don't give a fuck.
I think
about
angry
it.
is too easy. I'm not going to diagnose him here from the studio, but why is it that people that are bipolar are very entertaining? And I'm not saying that Chevy Chase is bipolar, but why is it people with mental disorders are so good at being funny and being actors, right? We read about actresses all the time who are bipolar, and they're tremendous actresses.
Creativity, because creativity happens in that sphere. In the manic sphere, in the creative sphere, there's a fine line between highly creative or highly intelligent and crazy. We know that. We know that. You've seen A Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
You've seen. Take a look at Brian Wilson. Right? Take a look at
Brian Williams.
Yeah.
No, I'm just making that up.
Exactly. So, anyway, it's not unusual for somebody to be teetering on the edge of genius and insanity.
Do you think that's where we are right now? That the listeners out there right now are going, yeah, like you two.
No, they're thinking you're just crazy. They don't think the genius is.
I don't think our listeners think I'm crazy. I really don't.
I know you're crazy.
You know me better than they do. And yes, I'm not going to. Anyway, look, Porsche a couple days ago dropped the brand new Panamera Turbo S E-Hybrid in my driveway, Zuckerman. All right? Right about the same time, you dropped the Touring GT3 in my driveway on 2 separate days. So my mind is swimming with Porsche feedback.
It almost violates your principle, which is that you can't get 2 new cars on the same day, because one of them will always be looked. It will never be assessed properly.
Well, I did get to drive the Touring GT3 for 2 or 3 days before this Turbo S Panamera blew my mind and changed my life. But both cars have done that, and they're both special and different in unexpected ways. Now, you've driven the Touring GT3. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
When I first get into that car and I feel the light steering, the light clutch, and the light shifting, right? I feel 911R, except I don't hear a 911R note. I hear that beautiful GT3 note, and I'm feeling wider tires, right? But the thing that's making me crazy and is like changing my brain chemistry is shifting a manual shift car in such a modern Porsche, which is all about going faster and better and faster. And don't get me wrong, I love it. It's great. But trying to wrap my head around a slower GT3 is an interesting it's getting used to a different temperature of bathtub. Wouldn't you agree?
But guess what? It works.
Yeah.
There is the anomaly. Faster is not always better, and somehow the fastest package with the engaging manual shifter is the winner. They made a winner car. They did not make the car that'll go around the ring the fastest, but they made a winner car for the public. And guess what? You and I are never going to drive the cars to their full potential anyway. So we're probably the only time we ever get the real advantage of the PDK is if we're on a straight and you can mash it, and it's shifting for you at the perfect time. Otherwise, we're going to do all right with the manual.
Have you tried it in sport mode, where it's got the little blip?
Oh yeah,
it's tremendous,
it's
right?
Crazy.
It's really beautiful. What a great machine. I haven't had it out to Malibu yet. I'm going to try to get it out there this weekend.
They did it again just when I thought that they could. That the .1 version was the ultimate version. They make another version that makes the .1 obsolete.
Yeah.
In many ways, it makes it. And again, they do this thing where they change the steering. They did it with the 997 too. Where the .2 had a slightly different steering setup that feels so fresh and so new.
And a little tiny steering wheel.
Yeah,
the car feels smaller, and it's an inch longer.
The car feels smaller. And that's something that you've heard me complain incessantly about the 991 being too big.
Yeah.
The GT3 Touring does not feel too big to me.
No. And I like it. You know what it's got in it that I didn't know it was going to come with is a reverse camera, which, on these GT cars, they usually never have park assist. But of all the cars that I drive, that's the one I want the park assist on, because I don't want to crash that one. I will crash anything else. But in L.A., it's almost like New York. You're just always around little metal poles and things that you don't see when you pull into a garage. It makes me crazy.
Have you experienced chalk fever from valet parkers, from people in the parking lot, whatever?
What do you mean?
Where people go, oh, my God, that's an amazing
No.
car.
I haven't had that. It's so far, and I ran errands, I think, to Beverly Hills in it once, and then I don't know what I did, but I've been doing kind of normal driving in it, and I haven't done a real run where people have seen the car. I've been jumping into parking garages, going to meetings, doing stuff like that.
When you go places where people will see the car and see you, they will tell you that they're blown away by the color, and that's because you spec the car right. It shows right.
Yeah,
with the matte black wheels and the yellow seat belts. It really it gets something in people.
That's what you do.
A lot of non-Porsche guys at my office came up to me and said, "Wow, what is that car? What is that color? That's amazing. I'm not a Porsche guy. I love that car." That's what people
I
say.
wasn't going to do the black wheels because we were talking about how that whole look is over, but to have that contrast right next to the paint makes the paint. Well, and when it's inside, that's what I did. I took it to the mall for Mother's Day to get some Mother's Day gifts, and under those fluorescent lights, it looked beige. And then you bring it out in the sun, and it looks
blue.
It looks blue gray,
it's
right?
Blue gray.
Yeah, it's a spectacular color. They're still doing it. They ended what's
Miami,
the other?
No, graphite blue.
Graphite blue is over now. But if you have the opportunity, chalk is definitely the color. Everybody's going, well, which is better, the 911R or the GT3? And
I can answer that.
I don't. Well, go ahead. You give your opinion on that.
I'm going to give you my own anecdotal opinion.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what it comes down to for me.
Yep.
The seats. And I can't. Okay, my
this is 18-way seats in the GT3 versus the sport seats in the 911R.
Right, and the sport seats in the that's the right seat probably in the 911R. I personally, as somebody who wears a size 44 jacket, find with my shoulders
and waistband
and thighs
and ankles
and shoes triple E. In fact, I have to slice the side of my shoes to let the foot blubber out. Anyway, I find the buckets to be excruciating. They're just terrible. So I will always put the key in this GT3 with the 18-way adaptive seats over the 911R. That's going to be my deciding factor.
There's no seat memory on that car.
I don't give
Did
a
I
shit.
forget to put that in there?
I don't
Because I usually get sport seats. I love the sport seat. To me, it's
GT3
perfect.
doesn't have memory. That's
It doesn't.
GT3
It's just not going
thing.
to have it. Okay. Well, anyway, what I'm hearing is guys who paid a lot for the 911Rs, that this is the comparison they make, that they overpaid for the 911R, and this GT3 is so close that why would you keep both? Why wouldn't you just put all the miles on the $170,000 car versus this, $400,000 911R?
And so there is a little difference. It's a little lighter. It's a little quieter. It has a slightly different steering setup that's not as progressive as the GT3.
The exhaust note is what I noticed.
Yes.
It's very different. One is a high, thin, light note. The GT3 is your traditional GT3 exhaust note.
It is so close. You're talking about a pepperoni being sliced 1 millimeter thickness difference.
Yeah. So there you go. There are thoughts on the car. I look forward to a drive this weekend in it, and then I'm going to give it to you. And I'll be off to Italy.
You know what frightens me?
What's that?
The future. And you love the future.
Yes.
And I am frightened about the future. I want to retreat into the past.
What about it? What do you mean?
Well, you're going to start talking about this e-car.
Yes.
And I'm going to get nervous because I don't know how to use it and I don't know how it works, and it seems scary to plug it in.
It's plugged in right now downstairs.
I don't like the future. I want to go back to the Cold War.
Yeah, that's a typical old man thing to say.
I understand. I'm an old man.
Right.
So
you shouldn't play into that.
You can say that, but it's like
you're trying to tone down the old mannerisms, not turn them up, not say them out loud. Okay. I could have predicted this, but look, let me tell you about this car because it's when I got in it, and it was charged up. I think when on a full charge it says 23 miles on the little dash. I drove to my office on all electric mode, quietly, listening to music, a lot of Led Zeppelin like you and I like, and it was, that's the thing about electric cars, they're just damn quiet. And then on the way, Johnny and I had to go to a meeting, right, in Hollywood. He gets in his Hellcat. We get on Ocean Park, and I turn the little, what do they call it, the Manatini, the little knobby? The Manatino. I turn it to Sport Plus and hit the boost, and I smoke him in his Hellcat. 0 to 60 in this car is 2.9 seconds. This car, I just had the stats up on it. This car's blowing my mind. 0 to 60 is say 3.2, but I know it's faster. Top speed 192, 680 horsepower in this thing. And here's what it reminded me of. All right, my first drive with Jerry in his 918, where we drove down the 10 in all electric mode, and then he turned on the motor, and then the thing goes. It's two cars in one. It's a Tesla and it's a Turbo S in one that you can put your family in. Now that is something I can use. And I come here, right? So I had the little charge point charger installed at my house, which you plug your car in when you get home. You look down at your app, and it tells you when it's done, so you don't have to guess when your car's charged. I come in here to the parking lot. I don't know where there's any charging stations. I drive around one corner. Charge point is right there. I hold up my little phone to the charge point. It turns on. I plugged it in. I'm getting free, cheap gas. That's $1 an hour, I think. But I'm driving around L.A. for free right now, not putting gas on this car, and playing that game where I think I could probably drive on this tank of gas for a month without burning the entire tank. How about that? And then when I want to smoke someone, I just turn the Manatini. The Mankini.
The Manatini is... Manatino means hand.
I know.
Manatini means hands.
I like seeing you react. That's why I say it that way.
You're
But now here, if you look at where this came from, the 918, $1 million car. Now this is a very expensive car. It's a $200,000 car that not a lot of people can afford. You can see where we're going. This little thing. I consider Tesla for a second for Erica, for my wife, who's driving a Prius, and I've got her out of it. But not after driving this stuff.
Will the 992, the 911 992, which I think bows in 2020, will it have this?
I don't know. I would guess they'll do a hybrid 911. It's a very heavy car. Why it works for the Panamera is that heaviness, that battery, that feel gives it a nice smooth ride. So
how heavy is it?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
Did you tell me it was 6,000 pounds?
That wouldn't surprise me.
Heavier than a Hellcat, and that is a heavy car.
But this car jams, Zuckerman. Zuckerman, it jams. And as you know, you don't drive in that mode a lot. You just want to use it when you want to use it, and then the rest of the time you're not polluting. And LA doesn't need any more pollution. So anyway, check this car out, you guys. It's wonderful. I'm a big fan of what Porsche's doing here. We need more of it.
Tell me. Tesla. Does Tesla become an also?
I don't know how they're going to last with this stuff. So Erica, we're replacing her Prius. Thank God. I prayed every night that the Prius. She had got 4 in a row, and I got on my knees every morning and said, "Please God, get that ugly piece of shit out of my driveway. I can't deal with it anymore."
Praying for theft.
And her lease came up, and I said, "Let me put you in a bunch of other stuff." And it came down to the BMW 5 Series and the Model 3, and we went to check out the Model 3 at the Century City Mall. And, maybe it's a little unfair. Maybe there are a lot of people coming through there. There were 3 or 4 things wrong with that car. They couldn't open the little doors. Something was broken on the side. And, that was my worry about that car, that a first-year new model, that golden rule, don't ever buy it, things would be wrong with it. Now, they reassured me that 33,000 people were coming there and opening and closing the door. And I said, well, have you met my kids? Because that's what they're going to do in the first week. And, while I love the idea of the car, it was expensive. Those first models roll out with a lot of options. And I just thought for that money, it doesn't feel worth it yet. And I like what they're doing. And I just said to Erica, I go, are you in the mood for a beta? Are you in the mood for a car you're going to have to keep bringing in to get it right and to support this thing, which we support? And she said, no, I can't handle it. So we went with a BMW 5 Series plug-in. Just like this Panamera, a little less expensive, a lot less expensive. and she's joining the German car club. I feel like my kids are in a safer vehicle as well. I was never a fan of that crumple zone in the front of the Prius. Right? You must know something about that. Yeah. And we're off. Erica's in the German car family.
Good.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I want to play you a clip right now, all right?
Play a clip.
This is good. John Cena recently went on Adam Carolla's show, I think this week, a couple days ago. He won't come here. He called in, and Adam asked him about the Ford GT lawsuit. And here's what he had to say.
Now, I said to myself, and I wondered aloud to my car community, why would you make a video that was so public about you picking it up and then also make it public that you were selling it, knowing that would upset Ford? Right. But you tell me, what am I missing?
Well, you're missing the story that is to be told, which is a legal battle between myself and Ford. And I have full faith in the legal system. And, I certainly don't have any ill will against Ford. But they feel one way about the situation, and I feel another way about the situation, and we'll let the court system figure it out. And unfortunately, that's pretty much all I can say about that. And I feel confident in my stance, and so does Ford, and that's why we have a court system.
Well, let me ask.
Well, there you go. What do you think about that?
Okay, his lips were moving, and it was just a bunch of gibberish. I like that Eminem song. I mean,
but you're an attorney.
Yeah,
what is he saying without saying it?
He said nothing, Spike.
Right.
That was words and with no meaning. Words with no meaning. He could comment all he wanted on it. He's not prevented from saying anything. And having confidence in the court system, he really is. He didn't say he was right. He didn't say that he's going to prove it. He's got no case, and he has nothing to say, and that's the best that his PR people could come up with for him to say.
But it looks
response.
like he's going to take this to court. He's going to go the distance.
Wait a second. He didn't take it to court. They took it to court. Now he is in court.
But he didn't roll.
Oh, he doesn't have the money.
I don't think. See, now I'm starting to believe this Tom Cruise angle. Now, I've reached out to a couple of people, and Tom Cruise has just got a vault around him. I'm not getting anything back from, and I'm talking about people who know Tom Cruise. I'm not getting anything back from him, and I'm starting to believe, don't call me a conspiracy theorist, but I'm starting to believe Tom Cruise has this car, and that's the problem.
Well, okay. I could have the car. If John Cena had sold the car to me, that would be a problem for him, too.
All right.
I wouldn't give it back.
Look at this now. Mecum has an auction coming up. Hold on here. They, in a couple weeks, May 15th to May 20th, coming up this weekend, a 2017 Ford GT, 7 miles, number 48 of 250 produced. Now, you're not allowed to sell this car. It's not a charity car as far as I know. How come this guy, now there's another one up. They're supposed to hold the car for 2 years.
Again, I can't answer this specific question, and Mecum might be taking a risk here, but if I was running the auction and I had an opportunity to be a third party who is not a contracted party to the contract for the car, would I want to try to auction that and get the publicity? I think it's a brilliant publicity move, and I think that whoever now Ford wants to, they can try to put an injunction on it. But Mecum's not doing anything wrong.
Wow, so they'll just do it. What about the guy who put it in the auction?
Well, he's a different story.
Well, it feels like the dam is breaking on these Ford GT sales, and if enough guys sell them, what are they going to do, right?
Well, okay, there's only 250 cars, so I don't think that there's much of a risk. But I do think that's interesting. I wonder if it's somebody overseas. I wonder what the whole backstory is on the Mecum car. But it could just be a stunt, and the car might never go to auction.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to meet Roy Sekoff, co-founder of the Huffington Post, and talk about his new book. Fellas, important question for you. Do you feel like you've got a little less hair than you used to? Be honest with yourself. Look at Zuckerman. The more of you that run from the truth, the faster the truth will catch up to you. So here's the thing. There are 2 clinically proven medications that let you keep your hair, and now they're inexpensive and easy to get. Long story short, but the important thing is that you don't need to lose your hair if you don't want to. That's why we need to talk about Keeps. For a few minutes now and just $1 a day, you'll never have to worry about your hair loss again. Our producer, Will, went through the sign-up process, and he tells me, I'm looking at him right now, he said quick and easy. He's got a beautiful head of hair. Not sure why he signed up for it, but I'm sure it's going to be even more beautiful now.
Preventative measures.
Oh, preventative measures. Just enter some personal details and your address so they know where to send the product. Answer only a handful of simple, straightforward questions and submit 3 photos of your head to the doctor to look at, and you're done. It was easy, right?
Very easy.
It took him less than 5 minutes, and now he's on his way to glorious hair like Clark Kent. Unlike Zuckerman, who has accepted his keratin calamity and looks like Lex Luthor. If you could reverse your hair loss and all it costs you was 5 minutes and $1 a day, why aren't you already on it? Keeps is only $10 to $35 a month, plus now you can get your first month free. One hell of a deal for getting to keep your hair. There's no reason to put this off any longer. Stop hair loss today, the easy way with Keeps. To receive your first month of treatment for free, go to keeps.com/spike. That's my name. That's keeps.com/spike. That's a free month of treatment at keeps.com/spike. Keeps. Hair today, hair tomorrow.
Hey humans, David Smalley here from the Dogma Debate Podcast, right here on Podcast One, where we talk about all the things you're not supposed to discuss at work: religion, politics, abortion, racism, slavery, and that's only when we open the Bible. We discuss Islam, Islamophobia. What does that even mean? We chat with vegans, animal rights activists, and even visit factory farms to see it for ourselves. I invite people from multiple backgrounds to convert me into their worldview. But as long as they're okay with being respectfully challenged, you better bring your evidence. And I never lose sight of how both the left and the right are seeming to lose their minds. So basically, we're solving all the world's problems right here on Dogma Debate. And you've been missing it. Download Dogma Debate on iTunes, Stitcher, or PodcastOne.com.
Okay, this is a 30-second commercial, and I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but please stay with me. In just 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. This company has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years, and anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. That company is Geico. Go to geico.com today. Sorry for all the numbers, and in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm out of time.
You're listening to Spike's Car Radio.
All right, we're back. Spike's Car Radio. We're sitting here with Roy Sekoff. Roy, I'm looking at your press release here.
Okay.
If David Sedaris, Chelsea Handler, Larry David, and Caitlin Moran had an orgy in history.
The unlikeliest orgy in history.
That's right. Who's Caitlin Moran?
Caitlin Moran is a fantastic essayist from England. She wrote a book called How to Build a Girl, and also one How to Be a Woman. Very funny woman.
Well, this is a glowing review of your book. And it instantly makes me want to read it. You know, I have it right here. I'm taking it to Italy with me.
Fantastic.
Primarily because it's an advanced copy and it's small and it's going to fit.
Yes, it's very, very easy.
But so many of the chapters had me laughing out loud. We were reading them right before we started here. Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that. Before, I want to talk about, because this co-founder of the Huffington Post.
Yes.
I need to hear everything about that. First of all, why didn't they call it the Sekoff Post?
Ariana had a little bit more high Q factor, better name recognition.
And how does I'm trying to figure out when I caught up with the Huffington Post, maybe around 2006.
Yep.
Right? Is that when this was started?
We
and
launched...
do you call yourself a newspaper at that point, or what was it?
You know, it's interesting to look back now. This was the time when blogging was the explosive thing,
yes.
Right? And what happened was, I don't know if you remember, but on the heels of the 2004 presidential election, when John Kerry, war hero, lost to George Bush, not war hero, and everybody in the Democratic side of things went apeshit. Right. It was like, what the hell happened? How did this guy lose to that guy?
Right.
Remember, I don't know if you were working at NBC and SNL at the time. Remember the famous sketch with John Lovitz as Dukakis and Dana Carvey as Bush, and then he turns and he goes, I'm losing to this guy. Right. Well, everybody was like, how the hell did this happen? So all the West Side, L.A. liberal kind of folks got together and tried to figure out what the hell happened. And one of the things that came up was the Republicans had perfected this echo chamber. You know, that you'd have these places like think tanks like the Heritage Foundation.
Right.
They'd come up with an idea. Then they'd float the idea out. And then Drudge would blow it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Swift
everybody...
boating, all of that.
Yeah, and then everybody in talk radio would parrot whatever Drudge had on the top of
They're
his page.
exceptional at this.
Yeah, so it became fantastic. And everybody was like, we need our Drudge.
Right.
That was the original thought. Like, how can we compete with this? And everybody in 2004, if you remember, Howard Dean had gotten a lot of traction on the series of tubes known as the Internets. Yeah. So everybody thought, maybe the Internet would be a way that we – because that was a 30-year plan that the Republicans had to build this machine, this echo machine. And we thought, how can we truncate that time? I say we. I'm really not a political type person, but, they were saying that. And then the idea was maybe we could use the Internet. And what would be our Drudge? And that was the original thought, was, we would create something that would allow this. And then, of course,
but originally it's different than that, because Drudge is just a series of links, right? He's an aggregator.
Correct.
Who just –
Correct.
And by the way, Drudge was working at the gift shop at CBS Radford.
Correct.
Right, when
Correct.
I was writing Seinfeld. He was the goofy guy who sold the hats that said Seinfeld on them.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing was, though, that, his...
How did he go from there to this thing?
Right?
Right.
He
seemed like just a goofball nerd like all of us.
Yeah.
And then he's out there
He
selling
liked wearing
that
the
crap.
fedoras and doing the kind of,
Right,
1940s
yeah, and really
radio
into
attitude
TV,
thing.
and
Yeah.
hey, Gilligan's Island was here,
Yeah.
It was fun.
Sometimes
I liked
you
going
stumble
in
into
there.
the thing, right?
Right.
And
Clampett.
he also was working with a name that has now become incredibly big on the political landscape, Andrew Breitbart.
Okay,
Now,
right.
Andrew was really Drudge's guy.
Okay.
Right? He was the behind-the-scenes guy. And Andrew was brilliant in understanding the Internet. He was kind of ADD. And he had a million thoughts, and they were going all the time. And I became friends with Andrew in the early days because he.
But was it always as insane as it is now?
What?
Was Breitbart just a conservative outpost?
Well, there was no Breitbart
back then.
There was
none.
no Breitbart.
Right.
There was just Andrew, and
right.
Andrew was working with Matt.
I
Right?
see.
And he was also previously a researcher for Arianna Huffington. So when I started working with Arianna, because I worked with Arianna for 5 years before the Huffington Post was even a glimmer in anybody's eye. And whenever we had a really tough nut to crack, research-wise, we'd call up Andrew, and insanely, 30 seconds later, you'd hear tapping, and he'd have the answer.
Really?
I mean, he was amazing, right?
Wow.
And this is maybe controversial for people who only know the name Breitbart, who only maybe got to know Andrew later. He was a hysterically funny guy. And he and I really hit it off.
So he's helping Huffington Post start.
Yes. Andrew.
That's
well, this is
something.
the thing.
Does anybody know that?
Here's the thing.
That's insanity.
I'm about to break the story here with you, Spike. I'm working on a story right now, for the next book.
Right.
And one of them is the working headline is "Hate Breitbart, Thank HuffPost," because really what happened was. This is a long story, but basically Andrew was very, very, very involved in the founding of HuffPost. It didn't last. He was gone after 2 months after the launch because the fit was just never going to work once it became clear. But he was
What was that? What was the fit in direction for the
politics?
The politics,
yeah.
right?
See, because Andrew,
but that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Were his politics as insane and radical as the current Breitbart?
Not at all. Not even close. And this is my opinion. Other people may disagree who know him. I feel he would be miserably unhappy about the current state of his name.
Right.
What his name has come to symbolize.
Right.
But, see, here's the thing about Andrew. What I think he was when I knew him in the beginning, back in 2003, 2004, 2005, he was a consummate shit stirrer. He loved, if he found something that was going to cause shit to hit the fan,
right.
and it was against the Republicans, he didn't care. He just loved, he was like, a merry prankster.
Right.
And he always had a twinkle in his eye, and he's a very funny guy.
But he knew what people were going to click on.
He was really, really good at that, right? And so he and I would get together, and we would talk, and blah, 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 and, and it was just fun. He loved the movies. He loved sports. He loved the Dodgers. He was just a wonderfully funny guy. And so he, in the beginning, once the idea of HuffPost was really just at the very, very, very beginning, Arianna said, we have to call Andrew, because Andrew really,
darling,
if you want to do
like Mrs. Mooney,
if you want to do the internet, and Andrew came in I'm talking about the very, very beginning, before there was anything, And
was it really just you and Ariana Huffington and a couple other people in a tiny little office?
Yeah, but not even an office. There was no office.
There was none.
No. So at the very beginning,
a site, and there
was no site.
It's just an idea.
It was a notion, right?
It's just a notion.
And the crazy thing is that Ariana knows this guy, though.
Well, no, he had worked for her.
Oh, he had worked.
Yeah, he had been her researcher back in the, and they had uncovered some crazy shit. There was things like a guy who had been buried, in the Arlington who didn't belong there because he hadn't been in the military. And they had discovered that, and they had to disinter him and everything. So again, the shit stirring, right? So when it was the very, very, very beginning, there was really 5 people. That was it. Mm-hmm. It was me, Ariana, Kenny Lair, who's now become, one of the great investors in the internet, a great VC guy, and he was one of the founders of the HuffPost. Jonah Peretti, who went on to found BuzzFeed, and Andrew. So it was the 5 of us, and that was it.
Andrew Breitbart.
Yeah, and the ideas were coming. And in the very beginning,
Rush Limbaugh wasn't involved in that one.
No, he wasn't like that. But Andrew would come on, and we'd get on the phone. And this was December of 2014, 2004. And Andrew would come on, and he would have 7 million ideas. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that 6,990,000 were like bonkers, and 10 of them were like, holy crap, that's right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he was really, really smart.
And what was the core idea? That you would have writers posting their own stuff on your site?
It was going to be a combination of things, right? So as you said correctly, Drudge was really one thing. It was just a link machine, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't even have B pages where you would click through to.
Right.
It was just he would link you out to AP. He would link you out to Agence France Presse, the Washington Post.
By the way, how does he make money doing that?
There was enough traffic to that main page that he made a lot of money, and it was a 2-man band.
On ads on his site or kickbacks
ads on his
from...
site. No, ads on his site. And he made enough money that fueled the lifestyle that he wanted. He never really wanted a lot more,
I see.
Which actually is why Breitbart was founded.
Right.
Because he didn't want to do more, and Andrew brilliantly thought, you know what? We could make 5 times as much money if we just link to ourselves. Right. And when you click through, you would click through to what we call the B page, right? Mm-hmm. And then that B page would lead to a C page, and you could be within your own ecosphere, and you wouldn't leave for 2 hours or 3 hours, which is really what HuffPost got very good at, what we called being sticky, right? We got very good at being sticky. How do you make, then you see this and that you might also like, as the Amazon people say, right?
Right.
And then you click on that, and then 5 other things, and what's trending, and then next thing you know, you're deep dive into the thing for 2 hours.
Wow. And so does it remain yours until AOL buys it? Now, who owns the thing now? Is Ariana even involved in it anymore?
No.
She's not?
No longer.
So the original founders are out?
Everybody's gone.
Everybody's gone.
Yeah. So basically, yes. AOL bought HuffPost in 2011, but Ariana and I stayed. We stayed with the company for another 5-6 years. And then... Verizon bought AOL. So Verizon's now floating over the top, which owns a thing they call Oath, which includes AOL and Yahoo, which they just recently bought, and that's Oath. And underneath that is HuffPost and TechCrunch and many other brands.
Do you think Yahoo's going to survive? I still use Yahoo Mail, and I get crap for it constantly, but I don't want to switch over because I don't want to lose 10 years of email.
Well, that's the thing.
I've got so much story there that I can reference.
They have so many people.
Right.
That's why the brand, as it becomes blended into Oath and the larger brand, I think people still want to keep the emails.
They do.
I have many people who still use the AOL
email. I have so much car history between Paul and I and Jerry and videos. I can reference it constantly. In fact, there have been many times where Jerry has sent me a car, and I go, "You tried to buy this 10 years ago. Look, here are the pictures. What's wrong with you? You didn't buy it then."
So the Yahoo search function still working for you. You can
Everything
search the emails very well. Very good.
Yeah, but I get made fun of for being an old man. But whatever.
Yes. So that was the glorious run. 11 years. As we went from those 5 people, basically in Ariana's living room,
right,
in Brentwood, into 19...
And Andrew Breitbart was in Brentwood as well.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because I remember on his last night, he ate at that Brentwood Grill that I like to have dinner at on Fridays.
Yeah.
That place.
It's really sad. I mean, obviously, super sad what
right.
happened with Andrew. But the funniest thing was, obviously he became bigger and he became much more a darling of the Tea Party and I think a little bit more radicalized, or at least living out loud. But the last time that Andrew and I were together, there was a panel. and the panel was, I think it was at the Wiltern Theater. And it was me, Andrew, the guy from Crooks and Liars, Mickey Kaus, and basically...
How can you hang out with those guys if you're doing the Huffington Post? Didn't matter?
Well, no, those guys were all sort of left.
Right.
They're progressives.
Crooks
Andrew
and
was
Liars, right.
Yeah, Andrew was the only guy.
Okay.
Mickey was sort of like in the middle guy.
But at this point, they're reasonable conservatives, which is very different than what we have
also
today.
you're in the business
It was
together.
starting to get a little bit crazier.
Crazy, right.
So, and this was sponsored by the LA Weekly, this event. So the event was populated mostly with the lefties, liberals, whatever, progressives, however you want to phrase it, non-Andrew fans. So it basically on the stage, Andrew and I were sitting next to each other,
right.
And then the other guys were off to the side. And it really became this thing with Andrew and I just going back and forth, disagreeing about everything, but in the warmest, most hilarious way.
Right.
And we're going back and forth, and we're making each other laugh, and we're like, you're crazy, that's insane, let me show you why you're wrong. And suddenly the crowd is like wondering, what is going on? Why are these two guys having such fun? They should be sworn enemies.
Right.
It should be like, Tom and Jerry, right?
Yeah.
And so suddenly Andrew stops and goes, okay, I have to tell you the truth. The HuffPost guy and I, we love each other. And the people look, and I'm on stage, and I'm going, it's true. It's true. We really do, And that's the thing. You can disagree in a fun way. And you can have fun, and you could, obviously what's happening now.
You used to be able to. You can't do that now.
Basically, after I left HuffPost,
right,
I decided I needed a year because it had been crazy. I mean, it's been a fantastic 11-year run, but 24/7 news cycle.
It's insane,
constant, right? There was the bigger we got, there was never any downtime because especially when we went international, there was always something happening somewhere. So I was the founding editor, but I also thought of myself as the fire chief because there was always a fire burning somewhere, Email would pop up, oh my God, so-and-so is so mad, could you read this thing? And then you'd have to dive in and figure out, well, or do they have a right to be mad, or are we wrong? And it was constant, right? And also, the last 4 years, I was the president and the creator of HuffPost Live, which was our live streaming network, and we did 60 hours of live programming a week.
I was on it. I remember.
Fantastic. Very, very
in New
proud
York.
Of it. Yeah.
It was fun.
And we had one right here. Actually, this is kind of old home week for me, guys, because our offices, the AOL HuffPost offices, were right there, 331 Maple.
Well, why the hell did I have to go to New York to do it then?
Well, we ended up closing down the studio at a certain point. But anyway, the last 4 years, I ended up commuting from L.A., where I've always lived, since 1982. I grew up in Miami, to New York. So I'd fly on Monday and fly back on Friday. And I did that basically 35 weeks a year for 4 years. So I was a little bit tired. A lot of airports, enough.
Yeah.
So I took a year off to just literally cleanse. And also, my daughter had 2 more years of high school, and I really wanted to be there for her final 2 years of high school, and that's been the best part of the last year and a half. So anyway, I took this time off, and when I started to think, you know what, I should start being creative again. I don't know what I want to do. I just started writing notes. Actually, not doing anything creative, just note-taking.
Now, why again? What were you doing before Huffington Post?
Well, I was a screenwriter.
Oh, you were?
I was a screenwriter for 8 years.
Wow.
And I was in that.
Did you get anything made?
Well, that's the hell of it, right? I was, I had a perfectly good career.
Yes.
I had deals all over town.
So you were rewriting scripts.
I was rewriting. Well, here's how it would work.
You're getting paid.
I was getting paid. I had
that counts.
Very nice middle. Oh yeah, no, I was a professional, screenwriting kind of guy, and like I said, deals here, deals there, but nothing getting made. So I was like an architect who never got past the blueprint phase.
Right.
Very frustrating.
Yes.
And then I met Ariana, and I went on that 17-year run, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it was fantastic. Changed my life in all kinds of ways, every way. Was better. And so I took a year off just to have fun, and traveled, and worked out, and kind of got healthy. And then I thought, I do have this creative urge that I usually have, and I don't know which way it's going to go, which direction it's going to go. So I just started writing these notes. And one of the things was I thought, you know what? There's all these funny stories that I tell over dinner. If you meet me after a while, we talk, hey, let me tell you about the time Chevy Chase grabbed my balls. What? And then you tell the joke and people like oh, you're pretty funny, So I thought maybe that'd be a good place to start because I kind of had already road tested them.
Well, what is that story? Now I want to hear it.
Yeah, I will tell you the story in 1 second. So basically, that's what these stories were. I started writing down, but then my unconscious got involved. And I had this explosion of, the way I say it is my unconscious started talking to me, but it didn't whisper to me. Like, hey, Roy, maybe you should do this. It came up to me like a crazy person on the street. Like, hey, asshole, this is what you should do. Because I started waking up in the middle of the night, every night, exploding with ideas.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm
you've
writing them
activated
down.
yourself.
I'm writing them down.
Right,
and
right.
Suddenly, it's like insane. One night I woke up. I started writing myself emails. I woke up like 7 times between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. And there was that time. Shit I hadn't thought about for 40 years.
Right.
You know?
We're back to the bipolar discussion we had.
As I say in the book, it wasn't a manic episode, but I could see manic from where I was.
We were just talking about the
manic adjacent.
The
We
creative.
were talking about the creative, insanity and genius being very close neighbors.
Correct. And I was having this moment, right?
Right.
And when I finished this week, I had 85. Now, they weren't all like stories or fully fleshed out, but they were like bullet points. Like,
right.
I could talk about that time. So I had no goal. It wasn't like I'm going to write a book now. I just thought, you know what? Maybe I'll write some of these stories and just see how it goes. What is my voice outside of HuffPost? Because that had been my thing. I'd been building that brand, that voice, helping. Not myself. I've been helping build that brand for 12 years, right? So I started writing, and it just started pouring out of me. And I thought, I like that voice. And I walked out and I said to my wife, honey, I know what I'm going to do for the next 3-4 months. I'm just going to write these stories. And I didn't have an idea and that was very freeing, right? I didn't have an idea, I'm going to write this book and there's going to be these 20 stories. And I just started writing and just having fun and just was really enjoying it. And the great revelation for me was, do I have discipline outside of deadlines? Right? Because I've been on deadline for 17 years, right? And I did. And so I just really started every day, 8 hours a day, standing at my desk. I do the standing desk thing.
That's insane.
And I started, it poured out of me. And I wrote very quickly. And I really liked what I was doing. So
here it is.
And here it is. Now here it is. This short
Now, how did you get it made, though? Did you walk around town and go, hey, make my book?
Well,
I'm Roy Sekoff.
I learned some interesting things. The short version of this is, I just wrote these things, and when I finished, I got 20 stories, and I thought, that seems like a book. I don't know, And I kind of reordered it, and I gave it to 5 friends of mine who are writers, and I said, "Tell me the truth. You're not doing me any favors if you bullshit me."
So
right?
did you write a proposal, or
no? I wrote the book.
You wrote the book, and you just handed it.
I just wrote a book, and I gave it to my friends. I said, "Tell me the truth."
Wow, that's brave.
And the response was fantastic. It was like, "Dude, this is really funny." I mean, we were laughing out loud. This is great. We love it more and more and more. Right?
John Kennedy O'Toole, right here.
And I thought, maybe I got something here. So I'm just...
Confederacy of Dunces reference?
That's right.
Yes, it was.
You didn't think
That's
I knew
very
that.
good, Spike.
Wait.
I have one of the original copies of it with the soft cover. The advanced, what do they call this copy?
This is the ARC, the advanced review copy.
Yeah, I have the one before that, the
galley.
the test proof, or whatever it's called.
Yes.
Of Confederacy of Dunces. I'll give
And
it to you if you want it.
Character?
Ignatius Loyola.
Thank you. Fantastic. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Book nerds.
Book
the car
nerds,
guys
that's
are
us.
going, what
We
is
were just
this?
revealed.
One of the great books.
Get back to the Porsche stuff, Spike. What are you doing to us?
Well, yeah, we can
We're
talk
giving you a
cars.
little culture. We're
That's
giving you a
right.
little culture.
Read that. At least read the first chapter about what was it? The hot dogs like
Yeah,
amoeba
fantastic.
in the water.
But anyway, so everybody liked it, and I gave it to I knew some people.
Right.
I met some people
Yep.
over the years
In the word biz.
So I wrote a little email saying, "Hey, I wrote this book. I don't know. Do you got somebody over at your agency who might?" And like 5 minutes later, they wrote back and they said, "Yeah, send it to so and so." And I sent it to so and so, who's a big partner at the thing, and he went, "I love this." It's crazy. Like he read it in like an hour.
Wow.
I love this book, and I'm like, really? But here's what happened. I got a little taste of learning what the publishing industry is like right now, and it's being disintermediated, like everything, right? Not quite where the music industry is, but I started getting the response, and the response was not about the writing. The response was the marketing. So how are you going to market this? How many followers do you have?
Right, exactly.
I said, well, I personally don't have many followers. I've been building the HuffPost following, but I'm not the HuffPost guy anymore. I'm now me, and I hadn't worked any of that. And they're like, well, we need, if you have 1 million followers, then the math says it's worth,
Right.
And so I said, you know what? I totally get it. By the way, no complaints. My stories are, I think, really entertaining. I think if you're a fan of those people, David Sedaris or Larry David, you're going to like
Love
the book.
them.
Yeah, I think you're going to like the book. But I understand that it's not like, an older Jewish fella who's funny. There are none of those around.
So how do you get past that? When
The brave new world of independent publishing.
Ah.
See, what I started,
You bypassed them.
dismediated. That was a word.
I knew
disintermediated.
I knew you would pick up on that, Zuckerman.
I'm going, wow, disintermediated. What a concept to really play with in my mind.
Right?
But it's so true. It describes what has occurred in the past 20 years.
Completely right. And my son, who's a musician, he's also a college student, but at the same time, he's been a producer and he's doing actually quite well. He said to me, Dad, your thinking is very 20th century. Why don't you just get in the 21st century and cut out the middleman, bro?
Right.
Because he's now putting out his music on SoundCloud and these places, right?
Directly.
And people are like, hi, I'm in China and I love your music. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
you know,
right.
So he said to me, so I started looking into this world. And what I learned was pretty amazing and got me very excited. 70% of all books are sold on Amazon. Mm-hmm. You and I, maybe you have other connections, but I and you have as much entree into Amazon as the big 5 publishers. Mm-hmm. Exactly the same, right? So I can get on that platform in the same amount of time that they can, in fact, faster. The big question becomes, how do you market it? That becomes, how do you break through the din? I don't have the exact numbers, but it's something like I'm going to blow it, but there's something like 8 billion books on Amazon. I mean, they put up like 5,000 new books.
But can't you just call up Huffington Post and go, give me the front page?
Well, not really. I'm going to try. The call will be coming.
Why not? Of course. That's your leverage in this conversation.
Yes, correct. Well, I'm not going into it completely blind. Right. But what I realized was, or unarmed, so what I realized was, I can just do this myself. If they want to know what my Rolodex is, because that was the question. Who are you going to call up?
Right.
How are you going to get, marketing in this?
Yes.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, instead of giving away 90% of my royalties, maybe I could keep 70% of them, which is the Amazon.
Is that really what they take, 90%?
Yeah. And that's
so you're really not making money on a book like that.
If you're Lena Dunham or if you're Amy Poehler, they're going to give you a $3 million advance, and they figure they're going to.
And if you're this guy, what do you get? Bupkis.
Bupkis, baby. You get bupkis, right? So what I decided to do was just cut out the middleman and do it myself because, luckily HuffPost was very successful, and it gave me a little bit of a cushion that I could,
and a little bit of exposure to media.
Yes.
And how to intermediate media.
Yeah.
Anyway, the book is called Lax Self-Control, True Stories I Waited Until My Parents Died to Tell. I love the cover art. I love the whole thing. Roy Sekoff is his name. Where do we find this? Amazon?
This is on Amazon, and it's coming out June 12th, but available for pre-order now.
Fantastic.
It's available on ebook, paperback, hardback, and soon Audible.
Quickly tell us the Chevy Chase story.
Okay.
I mean, so give me the 1 minute version.
1 minute version, tough version, but I'll give you the 1 minute version. When I was a young man, we launched a magazine. This is when there was no internet, and we started a thing called Laugh Track, and we got Michael O'Donoghue to be on the cover.
Yeah, sure, from SNL, right? One of the original guys,
one of the greats,
one
Mr.
of the main
Mike,
men,
right?
Yeah,
so
one
Mr.
of the reasons
Mike,
I'm in comedy,
right? Exactly, all of us, a Lampoon legend,
yes.
right? So we got him on. And he was on the cover, and it was a crazy story about how we got it. It's in the book. Read the book. But anyway, 11 years later, Mike died. And suddenly, and they had a gathering for him, a memorial service at the Formosa. And a bunch of people showed up, and we thought we should show it. We could come with this thing that he wrote that maybe nobody saw because we only printed like 10,000 copies, right? So we went there, and it was kind of a boozy affair, and everybody telling stories about Mr. Mike. And everybody went to the back room, and everybody got up and told stories about Mike. And, they were sad and funny and hilarious. And Chevy got up, and he kind of did the Chevy thing, and he told the stories. And there was a lot of rolled eyes because the truth is that most people in the room knew that Mr. O'Donoghue did not like Mr. Chase.
I didn't know that.
Did not care for breakout star. Yeah, did not know that.
I didn't know that,
even though you knew that. But anyway, so after this was all done, here I was a young guy, like 26 years old, and I got up and I said, well, maybe I'll say something. So I walked up to the front of the room and I said, unlike most of you, I didn't know Michael very well, but I had a very interesting week with him back in 1984, and here's this magazine that we did, and maybe I'd share it with you. And suddenly I heard this commotion off to the side. And it was Chevy getting out of the booth. And in order to leave the room, he had to walk past me standing up at the front of the room. And he starts walking by me. And then he says to me, puts out his hand. And I go, he says, sorry, sorry, I gotta go. Sorry, gotta be somewhere, right? So he puts out his hand to shake my hand. So I reach out to take the handshake, but he then takes his hand and grabs my entire unit, the entire 3-piece set. And he grabs it and he goes, "Nice balls." And then he lets go, and he starts walking out of the room. Now, I guess the word would be flummoxed, right?
Yep.
I don't know. No one's ever grabbed my balls before
Did
quite like
everybody
that
laugh?
in that way. No, they were horrified. So I looked around, and there was mortified faces all around. Because it was the dynamic. It was the power dynamic.
Yeah.
This bombastic movie star and this young guy, and he's, kind of belittling me, obviously, and molesting me. And so he's walking, and my brain just kind of froze. I just was like, did that just happen? And just as he got to the door, my wits came back to me. And I said, wow, maybe Cops and Robertsons, which had just come out, didn't suck as bad as I thought. Now, Spike, Mr. Z, it is the biggest laugh I have ever gotten in my life.
Awesome.
I'm not talking about ha-ha.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt the audio. I'm talking people banging on the table, right? I'm talking about people screaming, laughing, tears coming down. Now, listen, I know that's not that funny of a line. In fact, it might not make any sense.
Right.
But it was the timing. It was the timing and the dynamic. Young guy, molested, gets his wits about him, says thing, and this wave of laughter froze Chevy in the doorway.
Wow.
It was like an IED had blown up, the concussive waves. And
the
he
emperor
stopped,
has no clothes.
and he knew that I'd said something, but he didn't want to turn back, right? And he kind of just froze there, and he kind of went, I should probably just leave, right? And he just walks out of there, and the laugh dies down, and I go, anyway, let me tell you about Michael and me, right? And the place became sort of mine.
Right.
And people start coming up to me afterwards like, great bit. Like I'd prepared it or something, Fantastic. So funny. Do you have a script? And I was like, do I have a script? Are you networking at a funeral? And they're like, well, yes. And I go, well, in fact, I do. Out in my car, if you don't mind. I have a buddy comedy. And I got home, and my wife said, so how was the thing? And I said, honey, I killed at the funeral.
That's great.
I killed at the funeral.
Zuckerman, do you think the concussive wave of laughter is what hit Chevy in the head and made him who he is today?
We were talking before you came in about this and about how Chevy ends up in a road rage incident in upstate New York recently. And I said, look, he's a guy that's always been an asshole. And as you get older, you try not to hide it as much, or you're not capable of hiding it as much. And ergo, you end up rolling around with some poor kid in upstate New York screaming, I'm Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
And
but is there anything better than an old Chevy Chase movie? I watch them all the time.
I never thought
They're
he was
so funny.
I
just
Bill
don't need to
Murray
meet him.
better.
What would be on your number one on there on the
Caddyshack for sure.
That's Bill Murray's movie.
I just watched Caddyshack. I just like watching him in it.
Right.
And then I like the one. What is the one where
Foul Play, Fletch?
No, it's the one where they buy the mansion up in upstate New York.
Oh yeah,
The Money Pit?
Yeah, no,
Money
that's Tom
Pit.
Hanks.
Oh,
Tom Hanks is the Money Pit. Chevy had a different one.
There's a great
Neighbors.
scene in that movie where he's fishing in his little pond. He's a writer. And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
procrastinating, and he pulls in the snake, and the snake attack. I don't know why that makes me laugh harder
But
than.
what was telling the future was that horrible movie, Dr. Detroit. That's a movie that said this guy
I think of Dan
is
Aykroyd.
Dan
when I
Aykroyd.
think
Oh,
of
that
it.
was Dan
That was
Aykroyd.
Dan
Oh, you're
Aykroyd.
right.
You guys are just co-pollinating the entire SNL first generation of
But
performers.
if we can
everything
go
else.
back to Caddyshack, one of the greatest movies ever made.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, here's my think about all these kind of movies.
I look at that movie. I just watched it again. I went, there's so much of where I began in comedy in that movie.
But did it strike you as funny, or did it warm the
I
cockles of your
laughed
nostalgic
my asses
heart?
off.
Really?
My ass constantly
Off.
at that movie. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Mel Brooks made me laugh a little harder when I
Yes.
was younger, but
Yes.
that movie really just hit me like a bolt of lightning right through my head. And Chevy was a big part of it.
Yeah.
I liked his character a lot.
I mean,
I still remember the naked girl.
it's
remember
interesting.
The naked girl?
Well, yes.
Remember the checks? He's just got checks lying around.
But-
there are all of these wonderful little details in that film.
What do you mean the checks?
He never cashed his check, so he'd find a check for $70,000 sitting in his living room. This is the character.
Right, but you know the real story of that.
No.
So Doug Kenny.
I was going to end the show, but I can't.
Well,
What's the real story?
Doug Kenny,
Yeah.
the founder of Lampoon, co-founder of Lampoon with Henry Beard, had gotten a little bit into maybe the drug scene following,
Of course.
the success of Animal House. There's a Netflix movie right now about.
It
Doug
was
Kenny.
the 80s.
Yes, and apparently the money was pouring in so much that when he was down, I think it was either in Hawaii where he ended up dying, or in his Beverly Hills manse. A friend of his was visiting him, and they were looking through a book, and a check fell out for like $1 million. And the guy said, "Doug, there's an uncashed check here for $1 million." He's like, "Oh, I was wondering where that was." And that's maybe where they put that.
And he was making that much money?
Yeah. Well, Animal House, Caddyshack.
So that was the movie money.
Yeah, that was the movie money.
The movie money.
And that was real
their deal
money.
Was not super great on Lampoon.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. I mean, they walked
right.
away with a nice chunk of change.
Wow.
But yeah,
Well, excellent.
And Chevy in the book.
There you go.
Among other tales.
The book is called Lax, Self-Control, True Stories I Waited Until My Parents Died to Tell. Roy, thanks for coming on the show. You got to follow him on where? We got to get his following up.
Yeah, we're on the Instagrams.
Instagram.
At Roy Sekoff. Or you could go to www.roysekoff.com and sign up for my newsletter-y kind of thing, and we'll stay in touch.
And
let you know when I'm coming to your
the
town.
book's hilarious. You can buy it on Amazon. Zuckerman, what do you have to say before we say
Great
goodbye?
guy. One of the
Great
best
guy.
guests ever.
Stamp of approval. You give him a big
Absolutely.
Z on the
Love
side of his
this
head.
guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm Spike Ferris, and follow me on Instagram. That's where I have the most fun. We'll see you next week on Spike's Car Radio. Real quick before we go, here's some useful car tips you might not be aware of. A coffee filter and a little bit of olive oil can clean your interior. Removing excess weight from your car will improve gas mileage, and you can place your key fob to your chin to increase its range. That's pretty weird, right? Well, here's another tip you also might not know about. TrueCar also helps people get used cars. That's right. TrueCar isn't just for buying new cars. With their certified dealer network and nationwide inventory of nearly 1 million used cars, you'll enjoy real pricing on actual inventory and a simpler buying experience, whether you buy new or used. And with TrueCar, users can see what others paid so they know if they're getting a good deal before they're buying. They're also more likely to enjoy a faster buying experience by connecting with TrueCar certified dealers. When you're ready to buy a new or used car, check out TrueCar and enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features not available in all states.
Thanks for listening to Spike's Car Radio. Download new episodes every Wednesday on the Podcast One app or subscribe now at Apple Podcasts or PodcastOne.com.
Everybody likes free things, right? So help my podcast stay free to download with minimal ads by taking a very quick survey over on Podcast One. Responses will help align the appropriate advertisers to my audience. Maybe there's things I share with all of you that you're not into. Maybe there's things, well, why would I share things that they're not into? Don't talk about that. I'm going to share what I want, but maybe there's things you think I should be talking about. The survey is short and completely anonymous and takes no more than 5 minutes. There are 2 easy ways to begin the survey. Go to www.podcastone.com/my survey or go to podcastone.com and click on the survey banner. If you filled a survey out in the past for other shows, we totally appreciate it, but we still need you to do it again. You're doing me a huge favor. Me, Spike, a favor, and Podcast One a huge favor by filling it out. So what are you waiting for? Get the survey, fill it out now, and vote Zuckerman off the island.
Waiting on a tax return? Hopefully it ends up in your hands. Fraudulent tax returns due to identity theft increased by 30% in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues. And all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Help protect your information this tax season with LifeLock. Save up to 25% your first year at LifeLock.com/aware.
Ever tried reading while jogging, cooking, or even juggling flaming torches? Yeah, it doesn't end well. But with audiobooks.com, you can conquer books without the circus act. Dive into over 450,000 titles, including more than 10,000 free ones. Get hooked on a bestseller, find your next obsession, or finally read that classic you've been avoiding since high school. And here's the inside scoop. Sign up today for a free 30-day trial and snag your first 3 audiobooks on the house. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree.